and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we have got an episode for you guys today. We have gone through running backs. We have gone through wide receivers. And right now, on this episode today, we are going through the tightest ends, the tightest tight ends, the toitest of all the tight ends in fantasy football this year. Top 10 tight ends in today's episode. I'm hyped for it. Wes, how you doing?
I'm doing good. This is going to be quite an interesting episode because you and I have a pretty good idea who number one is going to be, but this will be fun trying to help the Trollers figure out who the heck are the other 9 tight ends we should care about. But I'm doing great.
If you don't have a top 5 pick, who should you take at tight end? You know, that's what today's episode's all about.
How are you, Noah? How's everything?
I'm good, man. I'm excited for the episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk about some people that people aren't thinking about or talking about as far as the tight end list goes. I got a couple players, maybe a deep cut or two to talk about. I'm having a great time. It's not been as hot in the desert, so we're hanging in there. We're almost
still golfing?
Almost out of the bad times. I am. I'm on a little bit of a break because I got a new tattoo, so I've been taking a little break from being out of the. It's
You got it
here, guys.
Anatomy.
Can you see it? It's right there. It's
there
on my arm. It's a reference to a song by the 1975, who is my favorite band of all time. So it's excited to get that. I'm having a great time, man. I am excited. We have a great show for you guys, as we mentioned. Top 10 tight ends. Let us know in the comments below which tight ends you're going to be targeting. Leave a comment right now. Pause it. All right, now you're back. There we go. Good job. We're excited to read all that. They all look really good down there. Missed you guys. Leave a like and subscribe and ring that bell. And, we love you guys. We're excited to read everything about you guys. We love you guys a lot. We got a DM on Instagram from one of our listeners this week, Marco, who shared a post from ESPN citing Eric Karabell's Do Not Draft list about why you shouldn't be drafting Mike Evans. It was posted this past couple days. Marco's DM was started out hot with a yawn emoji and said, "Old news on not drafting Mike Evans thanks to you guys." Guys, we talked about this on episode 49, but most recently on episode 49. And we think we might have even talked about it a little earlier than that. Three weeks ago, guys. 3 weeks ago on episode 49, 12 training camp battles you need to know about. We're 3 weeks ahead of ESPN here. 3 weeks ahead of ESPN. Hit that subscribe button. Do it. Follow the social media accounts. We are on the ball here, guys. And listen, we love hearing about all the information and how it's helping you, kind of navigate your draft, stuff like that. Be sure to DM us if there's anything that you're seeing out there that's definitely helping you guys. Leave us the comments, write reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever you guys want. We love seeing it, and we love hearing what's working for you guys. And speaking of the Trollers, buckle in, because we are starting a Trollers League this year in fantasy football. That's right. We want to play fantasy with you guys. We're starting out this year. No buy-in, so no financial commitment here. We're just doing some PPR redraft. If you want to join, head on over to our Instagram, our social media, comment, message us, let us know, because it's filling up fast. You're going to want to make sure you get in there. If you want to take down a couple of fantasy analysts. I was going to call us experts, but you know what? Let's do it. Some fantasy experts here for the Troll
We're
Fantasy.
Absolutely experts.
So let us know if you're interested in joining. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. Let us know. We'll get that league set up for you. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time with it. Before we get into the news, though, we wanted to take a second to thank our sponsor. This show is sponsored by FQ Media Group. FQ is a media production company specializing in podcast production that empowers others to share their voice with their audience. For more information, check out fqmediagroup.com. And now, without further ado, Wes, let's jump into a little bit of news, because there's not as much as last week, but we got a little bit of news to talk about.
Not nearly as much, but still some interesting things going on. So there's the final result for the Alvin Kamara fight, the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago. He is going to be suspended 3 games. Right now, that means that Jamal Williams will be the starter in that time. However, on Monday, yesterday, Kareem Hunt actually visited the Saints. So if he does actually sign, this could honestly turn into a 3 running back committee. We don't know, but right now Kamara's out for the first 3 games of the season. Speaking of running backs and interesting situations, so the Colts decided to go ahead and sign Kenyon Drake, who we assume is going to be the RB1 should Jonathan Taylor decide to hold out, or if they do decide to trade him away. Deion Jackson, again, another name you should keep in mind. He's continuing to see a lot of first teams reps, but right now Kenyon Drake is a I almost said Baltimore Colt. I don't know how old I think I am.
Yes, it's but the 40s.
I was thinking Baltimore Ravens former running back, and then I accidentally said a real football team. Okay, last 2 bit of news here. Javonte Williams is actually going to be starting in the 2nd preseason game for the Broncos, which means sure feels like he's going to be ready for week 1, and barring another injury, he's going to play the entire season. What a remarkable turnaround. And also for those that are believing in the Sean Payton offense, all the starters are going to be in the first series or 2 for this upcoming Friday preseason game against the Cardinals. And the quarterback battle in Tampa Bay is actually still going on. They do not know whether they're going to start Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield. But right now, the plan is week 1, this Friday, Baker Mayfield will start this week against the Steelers on Friday. And then week 2, Kyle Trask will start against the Jets. And then they may decide week 3 who they're going to choose. But that's what we got for the news this week. Now, let's go through the toitest tight ends of the season.
Let's do it here. Like I said already, last week we hit some wide receivers. Go back and check that out if you guys missed that. 2 weeks ago, running backs. If you missed that, go back even further. We got some good information there for you. But we're going over the toitest tight ends in fantasy football this year, the top 10 tight ends. It's a tough position to figure out because outside of the top few guys, it feels like it's a little bit of a graveyard. But without further ado, let me kick this off here because we did the work so you guys don't have to. So let me kick this off here with my number 10 tight end in fantasy this year, and I'm excited to talk about him because it is Hayden Hurst from the Carolina Panthers is my number 10 tight end in fantasy this year. Listen, the tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend, and I believe in Bryce Young, and I think he's very good, but with the target competition for Hayden Hurst being Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and Jonathan Mingo, I like Hurst a lot to have a solid line of targets this season. Frank Reich spoke this week about the mismatches that tight ends can create and how they create, quote, a winning matchup even with a half-decent tight end. Now, I don't know if that's a vote of confidence that Hayden Hurst wants to get from his head coach, but I think Hayden Hurst is at least a half-decent tight end, so it sounds like Frank Reich has some plans for him. Add on to that, the last season, Hayden Hurst had 8 games with double-digit fantasy points, which may not sound exciting, but at the tight end spot, if you can get 10 points, you're like
that's enormous.
You're in business because you're like, wow, I didn't get 3 points from my tight end this week. That's awesome. Wow, and I didn't have to spend a first-round pick on him in getting Travis Kelce. So. And just to add to that, so 8 games last season with double-digit fantasy points, and that was behind T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So he's got nowhere near as talented receivers ahead of him here on the Panthers. He doesn't have Joe Burrow as well, but I do think Bryce Young can get him the football still. I really like the opportunity that Hayden Hurst has this year. Listen, at your tight end 10 spot, it might be some dart throws, guys, but I like Hayden Hurst, and he's going so late in drafts, and he's nearly undrafted, so I like taking him. In my mock drafts I've done, I have actually taken Hayden Hurst with the final pick of the draft in every single league. In every single mock draft I've done this season. So I like Hayden Hurst a lot. He's my tight end 10.
Who would have thought that you would have had two Carolina Panthers in two of your top 10 rankings
Dude,
already? I'm ready for Bryce Young to be number 7 in quarterbacks in their next
get
episode.
ready for it,
I'm
dude. Oh,
pumped.
7. Got too low, dude. Too low.
Oh
Top
my
5,
god,
baby. Top
whoa,
5.
the
Top 5.
disrespect. Whoa.
Yeah.
You could honestly do a lot worse than picking Hayden Hurst in the tight end because, as you said, rookies want to find security blankets. Maybe it's a receiver, maybe it's a tight end, but specifically with this, as we'll mention many times, the graveyard of a position, Hayden Hurst is a fine pick. I personally don't have him in my top 10, but it's a dart throw. I like that verbiage because who knows where it's going to end up, and you can do a lot worse than having a tight end for a rookie quarterback. Nice way to kick off the list.
Thanks, Wes. Take it us. I was going to say take us off.
Take
us
off.
Forward. Or take it off. Whatever. Who's trying to 10, dude? Let me know.
Go ahead now, Wesley. Thank you. Number 10 on my list, I'm going to kick it off with Austin Hooper, who now plays for the Las Vegas Raiders. I do believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to carry a little bit of his tight end connection with George Kittle. I think George Kittle is a better tight end and has always been a better tight end than Austin Hooper. But Hooper has had some good success over the years. He had pretty good season with Tennessee and not too bad with the Browns. Hooper's fine. He's a good tight end. I think there's going to be an opportunity. And honestly, I don't think I can legitimately, with complete confidence, tell you that Hunter Henry is going to be a more favorite target to Jimmy Garoppolo than Austin Hooper. I think it's going to be Devontae Adams, and then anybody else is going to get the ball. Now, I will also share, I do have a bit of concern with them drafting Michael Mayer, and I think as the season goes on, Hooper may start to see less volume, less opportunities, less targets, because Michael Mayer is, if not, one of the best tight end prospects of this rookie class. So for me, I still like what's going to happen with Hooper for a lot of the regular season. I'm just going to keep that in the back of my mind of what Michael Mayer may do. But Austin Hooper's going to be my number 10 tight end for the season.
I can't wait for us to just get flamed for our number 10 tight ends in the comments here.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You're outrageous.
You old guys, just having all these old guys over here on your top 10 list. Like, whatever. But listen, guys, you tell me who's going to be the number 10 tight end, okay? And let's see if you're right, too. Listen, at More Than Troll Fantasy, we make bold picks and bold claims. Hayden Hurst and Austin Hooper, top 10 tight ends this season. Book it. Let's go, dude. I like it a lot. I mean, it's something we talked about previously. Jimmy Garoppolo had the connection with George Kittle, really likes throwing to the tight end spot. I can see Austin Hooper having like 5 or 6 touchdowns this year, and I don't know if he'll get up there in the yardage or target mark, but with 5 or 6 tight ends in the tight end spot, you could end up as the tight end 4. Okay, so there you go. That's how this goes. That's the tight end spot.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Red zone opportunity at the very least. Who's your number 9 on tight ends for you, Noah?
I had to keep him in my top 10, guys. It's Chig Okonkwo from the Tennessee Titans. Listen, my heart sank when DeAndre Hopkins signed to the Titans. I was so ready for Chig Okonkwo to have the breakout year, to just blow people's expectations away, to be legitimately, I had him as a top 5 tight end before this signing happened. I was so sure that this guy was going to absolutely explode. And for that reason, I'm not fully out on Chig as a top 10 receiver. He has too much talent in the run-after-catch game to not be here inside my top 10. And it won't surprise me if he ends up with 6 or 7 touchdowns this year. The factor that I hold on to, even with the DeAndre Hopkins signing, was that even as not a featured player last year, playing over 50% of snaps in a game just twice, he still had 4 weeks as a top 9 tight end. This year, he should be on the field a lot more, almost for every snap, if I'm being honest with my predictions here. And I expect Tannehill to look his way, even just as a safety net or something like that. But I think he can be a red zone target as well. And so I've got Chig Okonkwo still inside my top 10 as my tight end 9.
I love that you're following your heart on this, because you have been so high on this sleeper pick of the year. And I hope for your sake, just for boasting rights, that Chig ends up in top 10. I think we had an equal decrease in his overall rankings, because I had him in my top 10 because you convinced me. But as a byproduct, he dropped down to tight end 13, which what does that mean in all these rankings?
Yeah.
But obviously
4 less points than tight end 10 and tight end 13.
Then tight end 4.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But Chig Okonkwo obviously getting hit with the DeAndre Hopkins signing is going to be huge. But kind of what I was saying, but even more of a point, is Treylon Burks actually this good? Is he ready for a year or two? Who knows? Does it even matter when you have Will Levis and Malik Willis as the backup quarterbacks that may end up seeing time this season just to try to find some future in Tennessee? You could do worse, and I don't think anybody is drafting Chig Okonkwo outside of you, Noah. So hopefully trollers
probably not.
Just take the shot, and they have someone for bye weeks, injuries, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks,
Stick
dude.
to your guns. I love it.
Yeah, I always stick to them. Let me know who your tight end 9 is, and is it as wild as Chig Okonkwo?
No, it's not wild. It's not an unknown name, but I've actually got Kyle Pitts as number 9 because I need to still be convinced that he is the unicorn out of Florida that we saw get drafted 4th overall. I know the potential is there, but unless something really drastically happens this season, I need to get proven wrong. I need to have him eat my words on this podcast, stand up before me, Kyle Pitts, and have the monster season we've all been waiting, especially with Bijan Robinson there, and you're playing on the team that rushes more than any other team. But he still ends up number 9 because he is the best pass catcher on that team, without a doubt. And that's also part of my concern. Until they get an actual good wide receiver on that team, because Drake London isn't, until they get a good wide receiver, Kyle Pitts is going to keep getting double teamed. And that's why he can't get this good production. But he's still their best wide receiver option. So for me, I don't have a problem still putting him in my top 10, even though I have a Kyle Pitts size scar, as I once said in a previous episode. So he's my number 9 on the list.
I've got the same scar as you, and I'll reference back to last season. We talked about it after I had a bit of a heated rant at Arthur Smith, and pretty much you had said, and I echoed and agreed with you, Kyle Pitts will have his first good week on my bench, and this year Kyle Pitts will have his first good season. Not his first good season. His rookie year was fine. But his breakout season, not on my team. Because I've got him outside my top 10 by a couple ranks here. I just worry about the quarterback play. I worry a little bit about just how much this team is going to run the football. And so that is why I've got him outside that top 10 spot. I'm worried. I'm concerned. And I want him to be good, but I'm worried that he won't be. So we'll have to wait and see. And I hope for the sake of just watching good players play football that he has the breakout this year. That is my biggest hope for Kyle Pitts. Not that I hope more that he has the good season than I am right about Kyle Pitts. Like, I hope he proves me wrong.
Boom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just for the sake of the NFL and his potential, I want him to absolutely prove us wrong because he has the ability to be amazing. Yeah. So that's my number 9. Let's go to number 8. Who's on your top 10 list for number 8?
At number 8, and this is a lot lower than a lot of people have him, I've got TJ Hawkinson at number 8. He does not even crack my top 5. I really like TJ Hawkinson. I've always really liked TJ Hawkinson. I think he is a great player. I just don't like the price. I think he'll be a solid fantasy tight end this year, as I think all of these guys I'm about to list. I got 2 dart throws here with my 10 and 9 spot, and I think these top 8, I've got a pretty good idea that these guys are going to be solid tight ends this year in fantasy, some being elite, and obviously our number 1 guy being the best of the best. But TJ Hawkinson, I still think he is going to be solid, but his finish as tight end 2 last year should not reflect in his ADP this year, I don't think. While he was tight end 2, he finished the season with just 3 weekly finishes inside the top 5. And he finishes the tight end 2. To me, that doesn't warrant being taken as the 3rd tight end off the board. And then if you want to add to that Jordan Addison is now on the field and stepping into a role that ran 600-plus routes last year, I just don't think Hawkinson is going to be a top 3 guy. but definitely a solid top 10, top 8 as to where I have him right now. I like TJ Hawkinson. I just think he's too expensive, especially for the guys that are going around him in the drafts right now. So I got TJ Hawkinson as tight end 8.
I also agree that the price is a little expensive, but I actually do think that he is a top 5, and I'll get to him when spoiler, he's in my top 5. But I do believe in TJ Hawkinson. Stick around if you want to see where in the top 5.
I'm sure.
No, but
I
think
a lot of people. A lot of people do. I'm more bullish because I look at it, or less bullish because I look at it and I go, it may be my Jordan Addison bias coming through here with how well I think this guy is going to play, but
I'll say that.
No regrets right here for him as my tight end 8 spot. I'm calling my shot here.
I will say that I probably is Jordan Addison bias, and I don't think there's any reason to say that all 3 can't have a pretty solid season.
That is true. They throw the football a lot in Minnesota.
They do throw the football the highest passing percentage of any offense in the NFL. So, but either way, he's still top 10 on your list, but I absolutely agree with the price. I think it is a bit expensive to get TJ Hawkinson. We already know he's going to line up with 2 really good receivers. Yeah.
Fair enough. With your tight end
fair enough. I'm going to stick with the old reliable in Pittsburgh. My tight end 8 is going to be Pat Freiermuth. I would like to put him higher, but I actually I think the rest of my tight ends have a much higher upside, but I think Pat Freiermuth has one of the safest, most reliable floors of all tight ends. I think he's going to cross around that 10, 11, 12-point range on a weekly basis. And with a second-year Kenny Pickett, a better offense, a much stronger offensive line, I think that Pat Freiermuth is well worth a pick. I think he could legitimately be your tight end 1 if you want to invest in a depth in wide receivers or try to get running backs later in the draft in rounds 5, 6, 7, 8. I think Freiermuth is a fantastic pick, and I think what he did last year shows that he has the potential to be a red zone target, to be a first down maker. I think Freiermuth is still underrated, and he's going to be my tight end 8 on the season. I like him a lot. He's a solid player for this season.
I like Pat Freiermuth a lot as well, and I will touch on him here in a little bit, but he is a very enticing player for me in drafts this year, a guy I'm really excited about, and I think well worth a top 8 spot in your list here. I'm a big fan of Pat Freiermuth, and I think, as some people have said, I think this season the Muth will get Luth. We're going to see the Muth get Luth, baby. The Muth is Luth. I like it a lot.
Who came up with that?
I have no idea, but I absolutely love it. And a serious moment here with the trollers. As someone who had a speech impediment in 2nd grade, I take no offense whatsoever. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic thing to say.
Oh.
The Muth is Luth. I used to say.
The Muth getting Luth.
That was I don't know if you remember that, Wes. My S's were Ethith. And I would just, hey, guys. And that was me in 2nd grade.
I was also really young when you were young, so I don't have that true, dude. Same memories.
Memories are weird.
Yeah, memories are bizarre.
Weird times.
Okay, tight end 7 on the season.
Tight end 7. I have perhaps the most athletic of these this top 10 list here, in my eyes, is David Njoku from the Cleveland Browns. Listen. Deshaun Watson loves to throw the football to the tight end spot. From 2018 to 2020 in Houston, Deshaun Watson averaged 90 targets per year to the tight end position. To put that into perspective, only 6 tight ends were above that mark last season in receiving that many targets. Add on to that, the David Njoku was second in targets once Deshaun Watson returned last season, just 2 targets behind Amari Cooper in that time. I think David Njoku is going to be one of the best tight end options outside of the single-digit rounds where you are drafting. I'm all about value, and he's being drafted as the tight end 10. He's my tight end 7. I just think the connection and with the history of what Deshaun Watson does when he throws the football and who he chooses to throw the football to, I think David Njoku is going to have a really good season. And that dude is freaking fast. And I don't know if y'all remember in that very cold game in Cleveland last year, when they were warming up and it was in the single digit degrees, but he went out all manly and burly and with his shirt off. And I was like, dude, how are there like 12 abs on your abdomen right now? What's going on? Dude's a freak of nature. David Njoku's my tight end 7. I like the opportunity he has a lot this season with Deshaun Watson.
What an interesting pick for the top 10, because I had no expectations for David Njoku. I also, as much as I don't really believe too much in the Cleveland offense, I think that Amari Cooper is building great chemistry. I think that even Elijah Moore is having some standout times here in the training camp. Keep an eye on him. So for me, I was distracted by the wide receivers. But the great thing is, as you said, he's outside the single-digit rounds. No risk, great reward at the upside. No risk, no reward. Doesn't really matter. You can get him as a tight end too if you aren't so certain.
Yeah.
Something to keep in mind for myself. But at least knowing that Deshaun Watson prior to Cleveland had great success with the tight ends in Houston is enough for me to pause and give David Njoku another shot. But tight end 7, that's up there, dude.
It is.
That's pretty up there.
He was tight end 10 last year with Jacoby Brissett for most of the season. So I think if I'm leaning back in on the narrative that Deshaun Watson will be better this year than what we saw him play last year, having more time in the offseason. It's an unpopular opinion, and believe me, I love being able to hate on Deshaun Watson, if I'm being completely honest. But I do think this offense, from just a football standpoint, gets a little better. And with the history of what Deshaun will do, or what he's done previously, I think Njoku has a good opportunity this year. But I will agree with you, actually, and say Elijah Moore has climbed up my board a lot, and I think Amari Cooper is going to be pretty good as well. So we'll just see. It depends on maybe how much they're throwing the football in Cleveland this year, which I've heard is going to be a bit more than they have in the past. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Tight end 7, Wes, who is it for you? Hit us with some cold, hard facts.
I'm going to put Darren Waller as my tight end 7 on the season. Now, it is entirely possible that Darren Waller ends up in the top 5 or even top 3. He could be just where we last saw him in that 2020-2021 season. He could end up barely in the top 15. I think both are possible, but what I believe and went into this season expecting and am already seeing out of the Giants training camp is that Daniel Jones is building some good chemistry with Mr. Waller. And I had a feeling. Now, obviously, Jalen Hyatt is there. I'm not worried too much about Sterling Shepard, but he's still just an existing veteran, if you want to throw that in. Saquon is there, and Saquon is either going to have a remarkable season or just a complete bust. I think it's one of the two. But I think Darren Waller, if he's healthy, is going to be a really great player for the Giants. And I think that he has an opportunity to be very good. Now, he's still somewhat pricey. He's around that 6th, 7th round pick, which it depends on your draft position. If that's too expensive for a tight end for you, I would have taken him if I already had a tight end before that. But I think that Darren Waller is in a position to set himself up for success and be a monster red zone target for Daniel Jones. So he's my wide receiver. He's my tight end 7 on the season.
Yeah, you probably almost said wide receiver there because he's going to be the Giants' top receiver probably this season is what we're looking at here.
Yeah,
I think I love it, and I'll talk about again. These guys are probably going to come up here and there. We could say every time on probably these next 6 guys. I'll talk about him in just a little bit, but I think it's something to really think on and look at when you're talking about his target for competitions being a 3rd-round rookie wide receiver and a wide receiver in Sterling Shepard who has been injured 3 years in a row now. There's something to look at there with the opportunity that Darren Waller is going to have, and I'll talk about it in just a little bit, but Absolutely. I really like Darren Waller this year. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, I think that if he's anything like he was in that monster year with the Raiders, that yep, that's the tweet. Mm-hmm.
That's the tweet.
Anyway, number 6.
Send tweet.
Just before your top 5, who's number 6
Number
on your
6
list?
is the Muth. It is Pat Freiermuth for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. He is my tight end 6. Listen, he was a tight end 8 last year, and he only scored 2 touchdowns. after scoring 7 in his rookie season. He saw nearly 100 targets last year and was a top 10 tight end 8 times, 5 of those 8 games being with Kenny Pickett and not Mitch Trubisky. I project the Steelers offense to be much better this year, to be a better team. I project Kenny Pickett to be better. And I think Pat Freiermuth is going to score a couple more touchdowns at least than he had last year. Had he scored just 2 or 3 more touchdowns last year, he actually would have been a top 5 tight end. So he had a 5 touchdown drop off from his rookie season, 7 to then just 2 last year. And he's being drafted in the 9th round, you guys. I really, really like Pat Freiermuth this year. I think he is an incredible value. I think this team's going to be better all around, and I think he is going to play a big role. Almost nearing 100 targets as a tight end is not something that happens frequently. And he did that in his 2nd season with a rookie quarterback. So I'm really excited about Pat Freiermuth this year. He is my tight end 6. I think he's going to have a really solid year this year.
And honestly, just to add on, because I've already talked about him, it's like half a rookie because it was an up and down and then almost exclusively down Mitch Trubisky. And then it was the worst of Kenny Pickett will ever see. Probably it was in where's the Penny Kick of the FNL season?
Yeah.
That would be a great
I'm on the
show.
Case.
Penny Kick It.
Yeah.
He just Pat Freiermuth, I think, is...
He kicks doors in when he enters. Yeah, it is. Kick it.
Stick him up. I'm looking. The Muth is on the loose.
The Muth is on the loose. Where's the Muth? Penny kicking on the scene.
Private Eye. Yeah, Kenny Pickett is in much, much, much better shape than he will ever be from last season. And Freiermuth, I love that he's right there just before your top 5. I think he's a solid. And again, 9th round. What an unbelievable value.
Great value there. Tight end 6. Who is it for you, Wes? Let's talk about him.
Tight end 6, and he's only at number 6, is Evan Ingram of the Jaguars. And man, oh man, I wish he was much higher on my list because he could be. But man, oh man, does Trevor Lawrence have a plethora of weapons to throw to. And even them drafting the tight end out of Penn State, Brenton Strange, just keeps chipping away at him from legitimately being top 3 this season. Evan Ingram is amazing. He signed to this 4-year extension. He has returned back to his rookie form when he was one of the best in the league at that point with the Giants. He is a serious part of this offense. I think he's going to be phenomenal. It's just the fact that Trevor Lawrence really spreads the ball around, and he has a lot of talented playmakers. Don't forget the whole running back depth chart there with Etienne and the rookie Tank Bigsby, and I keep hearing Dearness Johnson's doing really well too. Like, Evan Ingram has a lot of competition, and he should be top 3, but I think because of the competition, he's only going to be number 6 on my list.
Yeah, I've got Evan Ingram outside my top 10, and listen, the gap from 6 to 11 is probably 14 points, like we've talked about, but I just think Evan Ingram falls to probably 3rd on the target chart there, whereas he had weeks where he was leading the team in targets when it was Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. I think really highly of Calvin Ridley this year, and I don't think Christian Kirk is going to disappear. And so I like Evan Ingram a lot. I just think he's going to be capped a little bit by the weapons there, as you said. So many weapons in Jacksonville. It is crazy how many players are there to be just, they're like, hey, Trevor, open, boom, got it, touchdown. Like there are so many guys that could end the week in Jacksonville with 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns sometimes, just because defenses are not going to know where to look. And so I like Evan Ingram. I do think he's a fantastic player. I think he's going to have a good season. I've got him just outside my top 10. I think he's still going to be really good. I still think Trevor Lawrence has a piece of him that is going to have a trust factor in Evan Ingram as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars do as well. They just gave him a 3-year extension. So he's going to be around there for a little bit. He's part of the game plan. And Doug Peterson is the tight end whisperer. So we'll have to see how it goes. I might be a little too low, if I'm being honest. I think he might jump up a little bit here, but I like Evan Ingram this year. And I think he's a fine spot here in the 6th spot.
Yeah, he's for me too talented to not be in the top 10, but he is too capped by the surrounding cast to be top 5.
Right.
So with that, let's jump into your top 5 tightest ends of the 2023 season.
Number 5, Mr. George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, do I project Brock Purdy to throw 11 touchdowns to George Kittle again this year? No. Do I expect George Kittle to be a safety net for Brock Purdy this year? Absolutely. Will he be a solid tight end in fantasy every single week? I've never been more sure that something will not happen. No, so that is not the case. Kittle will have 5 to 6 absolutely week-winning weeks this season. He's going to have 5 to 6 weeks as a top 3 tight end, top 2 as a top tight end on the season. Outside of that, he will be very or freezing cold. And the only reason I have him as my tight end 5 is because I believe in the relationship that he and Brock Purdy have. And I believe that will get him some more looks and some more red zone, some more touchdown looks, stuff like that. I don't enjoy drafting George Kittle, even though I see him as a top 5 guy. The odds that he is a consistent contributor worthy of being taken in the 5th round ahead of big playmakers like Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Herbert, guys like that who I think are going to be consistently great guys for your fantasy teams this year, odds are pretty low. And so George Kittle cracks my top 5, but just because I think he will have 4, 5, or 6 weeks with multiple touchdowns and 8 to 9 catches, something like that, because Brock Purdy, when Purdy gets in a groove, he's going to look for George Kittle. And so I think that's why he cracks my top 5. I'm not a big fan, though. I think he'll win you a handful of weeks, and I think he'll lose you even more. So he's my tight end 5, but almost reluctantly.
I'm optimistic. I'm liking Kittle. I like what last year his relationship with Brock Purdy was like. And all your reasons of why you think he ends up still in your top 5 are my reasons why he's going to end up as high as he does for me. I just have optimism on the way he's going to play. I don't think he's going to be the number 1 target. I think he's going to be used a lot in the red zone. But, yeah, he's still top 5. He's got too much potential to not be in the top 5 I think on anybody's list, to be truthful.
100%. I agree. And he is a fun player to watch play. His energy is unbelievable. He gives me the energy that, there's some Texans line. Brian Cushing. He gives me like Brian Cushing energy, but like less angry and more just like fun. Wow. That's the energy that George Kittle gives me. He loves playing football. I think George Kittle
out of a hat.
Yeah, there you go. I think George Kittle likes to block more than he likes to catch touchdowns, if I'm being completely honest. That dude gets he's so really hyped up just putting a linebacker on his butt. And he's an exciting guy to watch. Love George Kittle as a person. I think he's still a top 5 guy, but I'm just worried about the consistency. So that is why he isn't any higher for me on this list. But Wes, who is your tight end 5 for the season?
This is the only tight end that I don't know if we will both share. I've already told you TJ Hawkins is in my top 5, but this is the only tight end I'm not sure if we share that's in the top 5. And I've got Dallas Goedert, number 5. Ooh. Okay. So I don't think he was phenomenal. He was really great in the regular season, but he is off the radar because he missed a heck of a lot of games with his injury. So we didn't get to experience the fullness of Dallas Goedert. But when he was playing, he was putting up serious points. He was putting up consistent league-winning points for the tight end position when he was in. And especially as the season went on. And you watch what they did in the postseason, and Jalen Hurts relied on him and Devonta Smith a lot. A.J. Brown, of course, was there. A.J. Brown had that incredible touchdown, just that when they chucked it, like first score for the Eagles. It was great. But 4th down in the Super Bowl, game on the line. He went to Dallas Goedert, and I'm taking what they did in the regular season, that chemistry, and carrying it from the Super Bowl catch and saying Dallas Goedert is going to be amazing. Now, one last little bit of news here. Dallas Goedert is on record saying that he and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are all going to have 1,000 yards receiving. I don't know if Dallas Goedert's going to have 1,000 yards receiving, but I tell you what, I am buying into his confidence enough to make him my 5th best tight end on the season.
Wes, your lack of confidence in us sharing this guy as a top 5 tight end is so, man, it's a little disheartening because my tight end 4 is Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. Just going to launch right into it, man. I echo everything you've said. I'll put a little bit of numbers on it just for the trollers here. I love Dallas Goedert this year. He finished as the tight end 12 last year, and he missed 5 games. He missed 5 games, and he was still the tight end 12. With his average points per game he was scoring, had he played those 5 games, he would have finished as the tight end 4. Just 0.3 points shy of the 11 touchdown man himself as tight end 3 last year, George Kittle. He was 0.3 points shy of being the tight end 3 in fantasy last year based off of what he was pacing and what he was doing, averaging his points per game in fantasy. Had he played those 5 games, I think he is going to be absolutely fantastic this year. He plays with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and he still had nearly a 20% target share last year. Even as the 3rd option in this passing game, he still carries elite level production amongst tight ends in the league. He is my tight end 4. I love Dallas Goedert this year. For so many reasons that you said, I said, and more, Dallas Goedert is going to be absolutely fantastic this year. I think he's a fantastic option in fantasy. And he's going after, I believe he's going as a tight end 5 or tight end 6, and I think that's just a fantastic price on Dallas Goedert. Go ahead and take him. I think he's going to be a really, really good option this year.
So what I'm getting is that both you and I are going to have to reach for Dallas Goedert in our drafts.
We might have.
We're pretty pumped.
We might have to.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be it's gonna be like before we started the podcast. Whenever we were both so convinced the Dolphins' defense was going to be incredible, and then like every draft we had that one year, I would always be ready and have them queued up to take them, and you would get them like right before me, and I was like, how high do I have to reach to get these guys?
We were in 4 leagues together, and I took them in all 4 leagues because I really did not want you to have them. That was very rude of me, and I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah, there you go. That is my tight end 4. Some good clump there on Dallas Goedert. Who's your tight end 4, Wes?
Now I get to TJ Hawkinson. Now this is where I think he ends up. I do think he's got this wonderful upside. We've already talked a little bit about him. There's not much more to add on to what you say. Yes, he is in a crowded room between Jordan Addison and arguably the greatest wide receiver in the NFL. And I think that, it's possible that he's going to end up with some single-digit weeks, but I also think that Kirk Cousins is going to chuck that ball around, and it's going to end up in TJ Hawkinson's hands so many times that he's going to have a couple of weeks where he's going to have multiple scores. I'm also going to throw in the fact that Dalvin Cook was also a PPR magnet, surprisingly, through his season, multiple seasons in Minnesota. He's not there. Alexander Mattison may or may not have that PPR upside. We'll have to see. But either way, I'm going to defer to TJ Hawkinson getting most of those targets and opportunities that Dalvin Cook has vacated. And I believe that he's going to be top 4.
Yeah, and I can absolutely see the path there. I think back to the years of, or maybe it was just 1 year, of elite tight end play in fantasy football from Jordan Reed in Washington. But he had Kirk Cousins throwing the football, and he was a very, very good tight end in fantasy that year. I could see a similar outcome with TJ Hawkinson. Listen, tight end 4 to tight end 8, maybe a bit of a gap there, but not a huge one. I still think TJ Hawkinson is going to be great. I got a little bit of a Jordan Addison bias here, and just I'm a little worried about where targets are going to be distributed. But with a team that passes so much, I can absolutely see TJ Hawkinson finishing as a top 4 tight end. I could absolutely see it, and I don't fault you for having him there. A lot of people do. I think he's going to be very good this year. I'm a little lower, but I still think he's a great option.
Wonderful. Top 3 tight ends of the season. Kick us off with number 3, Noah.
Darren Waller. Darren Waller is my tight end 3 in fantasy football this season. Darren Waller was almost my best value pick a couple of months ago. He was a borderline my guy in our My Guys episode. I love Darren Waller this year. The last time we saw him play a full season, which granted was a long time ago, but he finished as a tight end 3 in 2019 and the tight end 2 in 2020. He's up there in age and he's had a couple seasons of injuries, but I truly do not see a reality where Darren Waller doesn't set a career mark for targets outside of injuries happening this season. The Giants wide receiver room is so messy, and all reports from camp have Darren Waller being the clear-cut top target for Daniel Jones. I'll finish with a quote from one of the Giants beat reporters from last week. They said, "It appears the Giants have taken Darren Waller out. Some say it's for a breather. I think it's to force Daniel Jones to throw elsewhere." Do not be surprised when Darren Waller has 120 plus targets this season and is a top 3 tight end in fantasy. I love Darren Waller so much this season in fantasy. I think he's going to be fantastic. He's my tight end 3.
Yeah, boy! That is sweet! Oh man, we're getting the top 5, and I was like, I know it's not TJ Hawkinson, but like, who else could it be? Because everyone else I've listed, you're like, not in my top 10, not in my top 10.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I prefaced it a little by saying like, yeah, he's a top 5 upside. It's possible, maybe in top 3. Dude, I am absolutely loving what I'm reading out of camp in New York.
It's
unfair. I love training camp news. We're going to talk about it in a couple weeks. I'm buying into it. I am excited. Yeah. He's right there in that Dallas Goedert range too for the ADP. So if Waller is who we believe he's going to be this season, Darren Waller is going to be one of the best values in fantasy, period. Not just tight end, value in fantasy football. Oh, yes. I'm choking.
That was fantastic. That was a fantastic moment. That's a top 5 4th and Troll moment for me right there. It was just,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, baby. That was awesome. It was like you just,
golly.
That was fantastic. Yeah, I love Darren Waller. What can I say?
I need a lozenge. Holy crap. Oh my gosh.
If you can, let me get through it. Let me get to your tight end 3 here. Let's see.
All right. No surprise. I know that you and I have the 2 of the last 3 in common. It's going to be Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is going to be back to where we know him to be with Baltimore, specifically with him and Lamar Jackson. That relationship is not going anywhere. And we keep talking about training camp. You take it with a grain of salt, but Zay Flowers seems to be an important part of this offense. We believe that they drafted him for obvious reasons, but like Odell Beckham Jr., I don't think he's going to be the name value that people expect him to be. And this is something that we talked about weeks and weeks ago. Actually, when we talked about the training camp battles, what is the Baltimore Ravens receiver room going to look like? I'm trying to pay attention to how OBJ is used. I'm trying to pay attention to how Zay Flowers is used. But ultimately, it's still Mark Andrews as the top receiving option for Lamar Jackson. That is not changing, and he's still going to be top 3. And I honestly think I wish he was a little more affordable because I think he would be such an easy pick. But you got to get him at like the 3-4 turn in fantasy. But either way, he's going to be consistent. He's going to be right back to where we have seen him in all the years with Lamar Jackson prior to last year with the injury. Mark Andrews, number 3, tight end of the season.
Yeah, he is expensive. He's expensive. I do believe he is worth it. If you, depending on, it really depends on team build. I think, I believe there are guys that go later that will finish very close to where he'll finish at, and so I don't think I'll be drafting him this year. I just think there are guys in the 3rd, 4th round that I would rather have. But Mark Andrews, I mean, we'll segue it right here because he's my tight end too. I really believe Mark Andrews is going to be a fantastic player in fantasy football this year. I've got him as a number 2 tight end. Through week 6, he was averaging 15.9 points per game and was the tight end 2. And they actually had those numbers. Those numbers would have even made him a top 12 wide receiver in that time frame. He got hurt, came back in week 11, was the tight end 7, and then his quarterback got hurt and was out for the rest of the season. The Ravens bring in offensive coordinator Todd Monken, baby. Todd Monken, top 3 name of all time, just so you guys know. Todd Monken. They bring in Todd Monken, and they're going to be throwing the football a ton more now. I do think rookie wide receiver Zay Flowers has a chance to get a solid target share, but OBJ and Rashad Bateman don't worry me. I think Mark Andrews is he's going to continue to be Lamar's top target again this season, and I expect really big things. He's my tight end 2.
Just for fun, it's funny to think that like Mark Andrews feels like so safe, such a great pick, obviously top 3 tight end. I think it's a consensus, and yet I see him on the draft board. And I'm like, do I really want him?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to take a tight end right now? And I think that's actually the whole point of this episode. Thank you for getting to this point and watching with us, because 3, he's my 3 and your second, but like 4 through 10, this is where you get into the value. If I'm going to take this great wide receiver, great running back instead of Mark Andrews or instead of George Kittle, who were both there in that time, who else is worth drafting? This is where it's important to have the rest of these tight ends, but Mark Andrews is going to be great regardless, and I hope he falls to me. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, guys, if you're in leagues with Wes and I, just don't draft him till like round 8, if that's cool with you guys, and then we'll scoop off the board. There you go, Wes. I don't know if you saw me when you were talking about Mark Andrews as your tight end 3, because I know who your tight end 1 is. I was doing a real life, like a live moment of, I was going, who's it to? And wait, he's gone through so many people. Who's it to? And then I realized who is going to be at number 2. Who is your tight end 2, Wes? Let us know who it is.
Taking the absolute max stealing potential of George Kittle is number 2. I think that if we get exactly what we got with Brock Purdy with George Kittle, exactly the same, then we are looking at someone who is going to have 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. I think it is possible. And I think that offense is good enough to do that. But I can confess that this is the ceiling. The ceiling is that he is going to have over 230 points, which is insane compared to all of the other tight ends. Nobody's doing that except Travis Kelce. George Kittle is potentially, if all goes his way, the tight end 2 on the season. That's all I got to say. You already talked about him. He's in top 5 reluctantly, but
if he
I love it.
If he does what he did with Brock Purdy last year, absolutely could be a top 2 guy. Could absolutely be a top 2 guy. When the season ended last year, Wes and I, you and I had a conversation. And I went, is Kittle now just the tight end 1 because he caught 7 touchdowns in the last month of the season? What are we doing here with Brock Purdy? Like, what do we think happens here? So if he repeats and the production is the same level, absolutely he is a top 2 guy. I can 100% see it. We're going to have to wait and see. We don't know what's going to happen here. We don't know if he'll get a few games with Sam Darnold. We know he won't get a few games with Trey Lance because apparently he is just hot garbage, SBDB. But it is definitely going to be a fun season to watch and see. That's one of the key connections that I'm watching this year. And I'm going to go, what's going to happen here with these 2 guys? Something to keep an eye on, even if they're not going to end up being on my fantasy team. Someone I'm going to be monitoring for sure, and that I'm sure we'll be talking about down the season as it comes. And we've arrived at tight end 1. My tight end 1.
Just take it away. Have the floor, my friend.
Yeah, my tight end 1.
Yours.
My tight end 1 for the fantasy football season is Cole Kmet, Chicago Bears. 4-year, $50 million contract. He is in. Now cue the record scratch. One of those, yeah. No, listen. Tight end 1 is Travis Kelce. He has been the tight end 1 or tight end 2 for the last 7 years of fantasy football. He's Patrick Mahomes' top target. It's a no-brainer. He's probably the best. I'll say this. He's probably the best tight end to ever play the game. and he's well worthy of an early first-round pick. That's it. That's what I got. Like I could give you stats. I could give you more numbers. We don't need to. We know Travis Kelce is the tight end one of the fantasy season.
The only thing that I will add, and then we'll close out the show, is take Travis Kelce one-on-one. I dare you. I dare you.
We did in our first mock draft, Wes. You had the 10. What did you have? The 103?
102.
102, and you took Kelce, and your team didn't. And it wasn't like, oh man, that was a really big mistake. I don't know if we should have done that. No, it was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And so you've got the biggest difference maker at a position, and now you've got a solid team behind it. It's hard to put words to what Travis Kelce can do on a football field, especially with Patrick Mahomes. These two guys are electric, and he's well worthy of being. Listen, send it. Type 101, Travis Kelce. That's all I got. That's all. There's so few things to say on Travis Kelce. He's the greatest tight end to ever play. That is going to do it for the Toydest tight ends of 2022. What do you think of our list? Is it insane to take Kelce at 101? Who's your sleeper tight end of the season that we missed? It wasn't Austin Hooper or Aiden Hurst, I'll tell you that. Let us know in the comments below. And remember to follow us on our socials. You can see those on the screen here. So you can see our full rankings list of our top 10s. Make Teddy the Troll smile by hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell. And, join us next time. Let us know. DM us on Instagram if you want to join our fan league, our Trollers League. Send us a DM. We'll make sure to make it happen. Spots are filling up here. Join us next Tuesday for our quarterback rankings, baby. It's going to be a fun episode. I am Noah Selby.
I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of Selby Artistic Workshop.